welcome to another edition of Unboxing Alyss, the YouTube channel with a purple fox that unboxes things. I'm, of course, Alistair Frost, and today, unlike what I said in the last video, we're going to cover Midwest FurFest 2022. If you missed my little community announcement, I think it's like YouTube community under my page or something like that. Yeah, I had to change some stuff. Part of the Steam Deck review is going to be some accessories that I really liked, and many of those accessories came like after Black Friday. And I was hoping to try some of them out while I was at MFF, but a lot of them didn't come till after MFF. So that kind of gives me like 2 days to try some of those things, and that's just not enough time. So yeah. I went ahead and moved the Steam Deck review to January. I hope you guys aren't too mad about that. I'm really sorry. So instead, I'm just going to cover MFF, which happened like literally 2 days ago. So we're just going to do that. Hopefully that's okay. I hope you enjoy this video on that experience. I have a little cheat sheet here, which sounds ridiculous because it literally just happened, but I have it anyway. Moving on, let's get into Midwest FurFest. So, yeah, already wasn't happy that I didn't have my suit, that you guys know that. I did take my paws, I ended up not using them, but I took them. I also took my tail, and I didn't take a belt, so I couldn't actually use the tail I took. But that aside, I got most things, packed and ready to go. I think I left here like 5:30, which was later than I wanted to, but, whatever. Of course, I forgot some stuff. I forgot my 360 camera, so there will not be any 360 like video anywhere here because I didn't have it, so I didn't record that. But I think I got up there around like 8:30ish and met a friend of mine, and the plan was to go to Reg first. I think Reg closed at 10, but we decided to go a little early, get our badges done and out of the way so we could just go in on the fun Friday morning. And after that, we're going to get food. Yeah, that didn't happen. So we go to the convention center, which is where registration is located and you get your badge. And if you do not know, this is a convention that is still taking COVID very seriously. And to attend MFF, you had to be vaccinated, and I believe you had to be boosted as well, and you had to prove it. So that little card that has all of your vaccination like dates and everything, you had to show that or you were not getting into this convention. You also had to wear masks the entire time, and this is kind of the mask I used for the majority of the weekend. I got a lot of compliments on this. That was really cool. But you had to go to Vax first to prove you were vaccinated and boosted, and then you were free to go to registration. And we got there around 9, and they're like, yeah, no, sorry, we're closed for the night, which was nuts because, again, Reg closed at 10, and we're like, what the heck is going on? And I guess the issue was this year they had actual convention staff, and by that I mean the building, not MFF, not staff and volunteers from that. They actually had people who just regularly work at the convention center also doing registration, and I believe they couldn't stay past like 10 or something like that. Looking through like where they were checking vaccination, I could see the giant line. There was already a giant line for vaccination check and reg, and they figured that's the amount of people they're going to be able to get through before 10 o'clock. So they kind of shut it down super early, which we were not, a lot of people weren't happy about that, and they were, sorry for the inconvenience, da 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 da. My friend later on was like, what the heck, why did this happen? We would think that they would know that they were going to have, regular actual staff there, and they would know their hours and when they can work. So we're not sure why that wasn't planned around. I mean, it's not a big deal. It's not like Thursday is the only time you can get your badge. It was just, pretty much an inconvenience. But it's kind of whatever. We couldn't do anything about it. So, we had already set up at the hotel before we went. We stayed in the loft, like we often do. The loft is kind of the only place I can get. So it's fine. It's unfortunately not directly connected to the convention center via like the Sky Bridge, but we did find a route. And luckily Thursday, this is what Thursday is for. We found a route that goes through the parking lot for the Aloft and connects to the parking lot for the DoubleTree, the Hilton, and all of those. And from there, you can get to the Sky Bridge, which will go to the convention center itself and also to the Hyatt. So we had a lot of time, thankfully, to figure out that path. And that does save us a lot of time. You're still outside. It's still cold. And one day, I think it was Saturday, it was pretty brutal. It was really cold. But it wasn't as bad as walking out in the open where there's wind and stuff. And I think it was actually Saturday, maybe Sunday. It was pretty darn windy. So it's nice to kind of have that shelter of the parking garage and not just be battered by wind everywhere. But we figured that out and decided we're going to go get some dinner. The place we usually go, I think it was called Kuma's Corner. It was a burger place. The last time I went, I think my burger was like this high or something insane. I'm pretty sure I took a picture of it. Glad I did. They're gone. They're unfortunately gone. I guess they couldn't make it through COVID. So, which really surprised me because they seemed like a really popular place. I know my friend absolutely loved them. So unfortunately we couldn't go to Kuma's Corner this time. But we went to, I think, Adobe Gila, Adobe Gila, like Gila, like the Gila monster. And it kind of a, like, faux Mexican place. It's definitely a place that's all about drinks. Not so much about the food. There are a lot of people, super loud establishment, like, loud to the point where you can't have a conversation with the person next to you. Me and my friend couldn't really talk to each other because it was so freaking loud. But I had a taco, or 3 tacos, and like some beans and I think rice to go with it. And I forgot what he had. He was not at all impressed with whatever he had. I was fairly fine. I wasn't happy with the size. Okay, I'm wearing paws. This is going to be hard, but like the size of the taco, this is not going to work because I'm wearing paws, but the size of the tacos were really tiny. These were really, really tiny tacos. Thankfully, it being Rosemont, it still wasn't super expensive because Rosemont's basically Chicago, and Chicago's freaking expensive. But it wasn't that bad, so it was, I think, like, I don't know, $13, $14 or something like that. So the price wasn't too high. The tacos were just really tiny, but they did taste good. So I thought it was pretty good. Just the atmosphere wasn't that great, and our server was our server barely existed. She was off doing other things and constantly forgot about us. At one point, we had to even ask for silverware because they gave us food and no silverware. And, okay, tacos are a finger food, but like the beans and moving on, it's not, no, we need silverware. So not the greatest first night, but not bad. We did try to look at the schedule. I did look at the schedule, I think, a couple weeks ago, just to see what panels there were. But I know my friend and I were going to look at them together so we could coordinate what we're going to do and all of that. Tried doing that during dinner. Totally didn't happen because it was so freaking loud. But we went back to the room, looked through the schedule, kind of figured out what we wanted to see, what we wanted to go to, when we wanted to do things, and what like overlaps with what. Because MFF is a huge con. I'm sure most of you know that. It's got, I believe, after the fact, I think they said they had 13,000 people, which is insane. Absolutely insane for a furry con. And I don't think they've ever had that many. I have no idea how big Anthrocon has gotten, but that's up there. That's definitely the biggest in terms of furry cons. For anime cons, I've seen way bigger, but for furry cons, not so much. And so there's always things going on, often at the same time. There could be several different panels happening at literally the same time, like at 11 o'clock or whatever, for instance. So it's a matter of finding out what you like, but also figuring out what you like most sometimes, because if you have multiple things you like there at the same time, you're going to either give up something or like go from one panel for a half an hour, then another panel for an hour, which that one's going to be a bit more disruptive and a bit more hectic. So honestly, it's better for you to just pick one. Sorry, but you're going to have to pick one. And so we went through all of that, figured out what we wanted to do, and then basically crashed because we both worked Thursday. I work from home. My friend does not. But yeah, we're super tired because it's a 3-hour drive for me to get up there. This is the one year where, because he wasn't sure what his schedule was. I mean, he's already up there. He already lives about an hour away from Chicago, but his work schedule can be kind of funky. He's supposed to get off at 3. He told me he's been getting off at like 6 or 7 because of just things happening at work. So his schedule was a bit more unpredictable. And in the past, I've went and got my friend, and I would have to drive past the convention, essentially an hour past Rosemont to get him. So this year, we just kind of met there. And because of all of that, we're tired, so we just crashed. And that was Thursday night, which took a lot longer to explain than I thought it would. But Friday was a lot, because the majority of our panels were on Friday. There are obviously panels every single day, but the ones we were interested in, a lot of them were on Friday. But the very first thing we have to do is go through Vax and Reg, because as I just told you, they closed early. So we could not get our badges Thursday night. So first thing we do is go to the vaccination area, which I believe opened at 9. I think we got there like 9:15 because I'm a jerk and I oversleep, and moving on. But that didn't take too long, but it was still a huge line. If you've ever been to the convention, I believe I do have some pictures of like the line, so I'll try and, there will be nebulous pictures like all around me. Most of them will be me taking pictures with fursuiters. They're not going to be restricted to a certain day or anything like that. If I can figure out which day I took pictures on, maybe I'll do that. But like I didn't take very many on Sunday. So yeah, you'll see like fursuit pictures kind of interspersed throughout this video. If I'm talking about a specific thing like the reg lines, I believe I have actual pictures of that, so I'll put them up here somewhere. Yeah, line was super long, but it was for the vaccination line, it was moving pretty quickly, so it wasn't too bad. Maybe took about 10-15 minutes to get through that. Wasn't a big deal. Went to one of the stations, you showed them your ID, because you have to prove it's you, and show them that vaccination card that I'm hoping all of you have, and I'm hoping all of you have had your vaccinations and your boosters. So after that, you got like a yellowish wristband, and that just tells registration that, yeah, you've been checked, that for vaccination status, you're good to go. So going from that line into another line. So now you're in the reg line. We were in the reg line around, I think, 9:30-ish, 9:40, and reg didn't open until 10. So we just kind of had to stand in line. So I was messing around on my phone. There's My Little Pony events every week, so I'm checking to see what that is. You know, isn't thankfully an event I've already done, so I already have the top prizes, so I don't need to care as much. But I still got that started, and we talked about a few things and what we're gonna do and all of that. And I also got some pictures of suitors in line. I believe I'll go ahead and put those, if I can find them, at somewhere in this point of time in my video, because I'm talking about them now. It's kind of hard to get those because the line kept moving, but not a big deal when it came to reg. It just took a while. I think we were out of that line, I want to say probably about like 10:30-ish, maybe 10:45. We were planning to go to the Artist Alley because it's smaller. And then we were probably going to stick with the Artist Alley until our panel started around 1. So we went up there, and then we found out, and apparently neither of us were smart and read the schedule. We didn't bother looking at Artist Alley, Dealer's Den, all of that, because we just assumed it would be all day. On Friday, both Artist Alley and Dealer's Den opened at 1. I think it's usually 10 or 11 for other conventions. I swear it's been like that for MFF in the past. Maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, they open a lot later. So kind of 10:45 rolls around, we really have nothing to do. I think the opening ceremonies were happening. For whatever reason, we never attend that. I don't know why we don't. But we decided, yeah, let's just go back to the room. So I did more pony stuff. My friend messed with his Switch. I think I took a nap as well. For some reason, I was just so tired. But got back up, went back out at 1, and this is when the panels start. There were a few, it's kind of one panel, but it happened 3 different times, where they were playing a D&D game, just kind of like a one-shot type of deal. I wanted to do that. Another thing I forgot besides my camera was dice. I forgot to take, I've shown you so many dice, so many sets of dice on this channel. Forgot to take any of them with me. And I looked at the schedule 2 weeks ago and I was like, oh, D&D game. This is awesome. I want to play this. You would think I would remember to take dice. I did not. Okay, I had my dice necklace, so I had a buttload of D20s with me, but no other kind of dice. So I was hoping they had spare dice I could use. unfortunately, once I got there, they had their 6 people and they weren't taking any more, which for D&D, when it comes to actual players, like 3 to 5 is usually what you want. 6 is kind of pushing it, especially if you're going to do combat, because combat can take a really long time. But yeah, unfortunately I missed that. I was thinking I might try Saturday as well. They had games Thursday night, which I knew we weren't going to make that because of Reg and dinner and all of that. They had the Friday game, which I just barely missed. The last person just sat down when I got there. I was like, ah. And then Saturday, I will get to, because I'll talk about Saturday. But in short, and conflicted with too many things I actually wanted to go to. So I didn't get to play. But I went and checked that out, and they were full. So I had a few other panels I was going to go to if I didn't do D&D. So I had my backup plan. And my first panel, I'm looking at my cheat sheet. So bras. Sounds so weird. And I feel so bad. The bra panel started also at 1. And I could have gone to the whole thing, like after I was, kicked out of not kicked out of D&D, but I couldn't make it to D&D. I totally forgot it started at 1. So I was kind of wandering around, taking pictures of suitors. My friend was at his own panel. Oh, I think it was lawyer horror stories. I think that's what it was. And later on, he told me, while there are a lot of good stories, there were also people asking questions. A lot of asking just not. I don't think legal questions, just, general, lawyery questions. And he's like, I would prefer just all stories. I would prefer all you people in the audience to just be quiet and let them tell the stories. But, so he was somewhere else. And unfortunately, because I forgot about the bra panel, I went around taking pictures with a bunch of suitors. And, I can do that myself. I can do some selfie stuff. You'll see a few pictures where there's more than one fursuiter, so 2 or 3, sometimes 4. For that, I needed someone else to take the picture because I'm 5'3". I have very short arms. I can't extend my arms far enough for, wide selfie mode. Sorry, Alyss, I hit you. So, yeah, I had to get a few other people to take the pictures. But I happened to look at the schedule, I was like, crap, bra panel. So I ran to the bra panel. I'm sorry if I keep adjusting my mask. I love this thing. I can breathe really well in. That's part of the reason why I wore it all weekend. But it tends to slide, especially when I'm talking a lot. So just ignore me when I adjust the thing. I can't really do much about that. Went to a bra panel. Great panel. It was not just bras. I just did a couple words in my cheat sheet. I didn't type out entire titles and all of that, but it was bras and binders and things revolved around that. Now, I am cisgendered heterosexual woman, so I don't use binders. I don't need a binder. I'm sure there's some cisgender heterosexual women that might use binders for whatever reason, especially if you're exercising or something like that. And if you're as big as me, you definitely need that support you don't want things flopping all over the place. But it was a really good panel. It's a very serious panel. It's not some goofy, I won't say not safe for work because it was 1 p.m. Not safe for work panels are not in the afternoon. They try not to do that. But they talked about how to take care of your bras. I'm doing it wrong, by the way. That's why my bras are all torn up and have holes in them. They talked about how to properly bind. Again, there are a lot of transgender individuals or people who are starting that journey in this panel, and they want to know how to use binders. And there are specific ways to use them. There are safe ways to use them. I won't go into a lot of that. I didn't spend my time memorizing all of that because I don't use binders. But there was a lot of useful information, and there were multiple panelists, but the main one who was talking at one point was really, really obese, like I am now. It sounds a little bigger than me because her bra size was bigger than mine. But she knew, she's been there. She knows how hard it is to find bras that fit. She talked about how to tell if a bra is fitting or not. So you don't want things to dig. You don't want the straps to dig into your shoulders, which I don't know if you can see, but my straps unfortunately always do that. I have a permanent groove in both my shoulders because of the bra straps. And that shouldn't be happening, actually. If that's happening, then your bras aren't fitting right. If the part here, where that covers your sternum is kind of bowing out, then it's not fitting right there. It could be a cup size issue. It could be a cup shape issue. You want the band to lie flat on like your, I guess, waist-ish kind of region. Like, I'm not going to go into all the things she said, but really, really good panel, and I learned a lot, and she even did a bra fitting afterwards. And I have apparently not changed in size, which is kind of annoying, but also, I don't know, because I've been gaining weight, so maybe I should be grateful, I don't know. Also gave me some things to think about in terms of like a reduction, because I was hoping to do that after I lost enough weight, but she's like, oh no, I totally did my reduction first, and then I lost 50 pounds. I was like, huh. So it's something to think about. Also something to look at regarding insurance to see if they cover it or not. But bra panel, great panel, really enjoyed it, and I learned a lot. And again, Friday is back to back to back to back to back. So after the bra panel was the Who Wants to Be a Voice Acting panel, or yeah, voice actor panel. My friend actually joined me for that panel, and it was basically a Q&A at the beginning, and they just talked about everything from how to practice right to demo reels, which, listening to Crispin Freeman's podcast and speaking with the professional voice actors that I worked with on I will not mention the project actually, but the former project I was on, demo reels, if you're just starting out, you don't need to worry about a demo reel at all. You're not at that stage yet. So I'm surprised they covered that so extensively, but there were a lot of people in that audience. So, I mean, some people might be at the point where they could use a demo reel. They should make a demo reel. I certainly am not, so I didn't pay much attention to that. But there was still some good information. I didn't get to ask my questions, unfortunately. But the rest of the time was taken up by just pulling people from the audience and having them act out like a scene. And there were some pretty decent people, though my friend's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure some of those people are not acting for the first time. Some of those volunteers they picked, he's like, I think they might have been plants or something. I was like, okay, fine, whatever. But, a lot of them did pretty well. So, pretty interesting panel. I learned quite a bit in that one as well. After that, my friend and I split off. I forgot where he went. He actually might have gone back to the room. But I did the self-care panel, which was actually hosted by a licensed, I wish I had her card in front of me. A licensed therapist. I was just going to say that. I'm not going to say psychologist. I don't know the difference, but licensed therapist. We'll just say that. Who often works with LGBTQ, often works with transgender individuals in particular. This person is actually licensed here in Illinois, but they said if you're not in Illinois, they can point you in the right direction to find a good therapist. And the panel was all about, again, self-care, but she kind of broke that down a bit. And when we hear self-care, I don't know if I can, okay, you know what I'm doing. When you hear that term, especially in the media, it's often very financial, very transactional. Just, to take care of yourself, you should indulge and, buy this and da-da-da-da, and you need this, you need all of that. And it's very commercialized. And it's not a bad thing to treat yourself every once in a while, but that's not necessarily self-care. She said that's more self-indulgence. And she talked about the different types, physical, taking care of yourself, eating right, exercising, not being me, basically. Well, okay, I try to eat right and I exercise, but I'm still big. Anyway, emotional self-care, spiritual, and that does not necessarily mean religious. So if you are religious, that's fine. But if you are not, there are other ways to fulfill that spiritual, I don't want to say quota, but just that side of you. There are also short-term benefits that can help like boost your mood and things like that and help you feel good about yourself. Like MFF or any other kind of con. Oh, excuse me. It's short-term because, it's a weekend long, but that good feeling is going to fade because it's a singular event. Whereas like there are long-term things you can do that can help improve that care of yourself. So really, really interesting panel. There were a lot of really good panels this year, and I enjoyed that one quite a bit. After that was the Other Cantherian panel, and I left the self-care panel at the end, and when I left, I was going to go to the Other Cantherian panel, did not look at where it was. It was in the same room. as the last panel I just went to. I went out and I ended up talking to two women about like fursuits and stuff. And we ended up talking for like 15 minutes, and then they left. I was like, okay, let me get to my panel. And I was like, oh crap, I'm late for my panel. And so I went off this way, and I was like, wait a minute. That room I was just in is where my new panel is. So I had to run back to that to get to the other Cantharian panel. And by the time I went back, 15 minutes, just 15 minutes. By the time I went back, he had blown through all of his slides and it was just taking questions like, crap. Because the reason I went to this panel was because I don't know what other Cantharian really are. When people show up on the furry sub and they say, I really feel like I really feel deep down inside that I'm a wolf or whatever it may be. And we always tell them that's actually not furry, that's, Therian or otherkin. And there's nothing wrong with Therian or otherkin or other non-human statuses. The thing is that it's one of the misconceptions of furry fandom. We all literally think we're animals, and that's not accurate. Now, can an otherkin Therian individual also be a furry? Absolutely. But a furry is, by definition, not otherkin or Therian. By definition, we don't literally think we're animals. So that's a distinction to make. And when I spoke with the host afterwards, I did mention that to him. I was like, am I saying the right things? Because this isn't my community, but I want to make sure I'm not spreading misinformation. He's like, no, you nailed it. That's what it is. It's just, you can't say there's no furry that also doesn't think they are an animal or, what have you. Those definitely exist. There just is a distinction between the groups, but they can overlap. And for that panel, I actually do have a few definitions I'm going to read you. He did send me a copy of his presentation, which I really appreciated. I unfortunately haven't had time to go through it. I've been going planes, trains, and automobiles since I got back, just trying to figure out a few things. I get these videos out, I'm shooting it now, I still have to edit it and upload it after this. There's also a sewing project I have to work on for a coworker by the end of the month. So I've just kind of been trying to get reorganized before I go back to work tomorrow. So I haven't had time to go through his slides. So that's why I'm just going to read you a few definitions. And beyond that, I'm not going to go into the panel itself. An otherkin is someone who believes they are something other than human on a non-physical level. A Therian is someone who believes they are an earthly animal or has an animalistic identity on a non-physical level. A fictionkin, which I'd never heard of, is someone that believes they are a fictional character or species on a non-physical level. And a non-human is an individual who identifies as something other than human on an integral level. And so you can just take those what you will. And if you want to learn more about other Therians, I think there are subreddits for at least otherkin. I'm not sure if there's one for Therians. But yeah, just kind of search around the internet. And if you're more interested in that, then please check that out in more detail. Again, I don't think I am any of those groups, but I just wanted to learn more about said groups to, if anything, make sure I'm not spreading misinformation about those groups. So after that panel was my final panel of the night, and it was the needle felting panel. The host was called My Arm Can Fly. I believe my arm or my arms. I think it's My Arm Can Fly. And if you search for that online, you'll see them everywhere, including on Twitch. And it was a woman who has been needle felting, I think at least 10 years at this point. Makes really pretty 3D animals and things like that. And it was, again, a really interesting panel. She had a fantastic handout afterwards that I have, and I got an extra copy for me mom, just to show her. But it includes everything from different types of wool you should look at, different kinds of materials, and other kinds of resources that you can use to get started on your needle felting journey. If you don't know what needle felting is, I'm sure you can Google it, but it's where you take wool and you take a very, very sharp needle and you just stab it. You just stab at the wool until it forms the shape you want. And you can use needle felting to make 3D objects. I wish I had brought a couple examples. I have a needle felted Amaterasu, the sun goddess in wolf form. And I'm sure you guys know what Okami is. And I also have Applejack for My Little Pony. Both of them needle felted, both done extremely well. I may bring that out in the next video because I'll talk about something with My Arm Can Fly. But another great panel, another fantastic panel. I've actually done a little bit of needle felting. I have a like a kit I got from, not Amazon, Etsy. So it came with needles. I think one of them are broken. It's really easy to break those needles, unfortunately. And a bunch of like different colors of wool, like really like sample color. This is so hard with paws. Not a ton, but when you're just starting out, you don't really need a ton. And she actually warned against buying a ton of wool at once. She said, whatever colors you need, like a half an ounce is plenty. And she had an example of a half an ounce, and then 4 ounces. Because she was like, people read 4 ounces, that doesn't sound like a lot. It's a lot. It's a ton, especially in one color. You know, if the color's black or white or a color that shows up a lot, maybe an ounce would be better. But even you're just starting, just a half an ounce of every color, any color you need. And again, really informative panel. I really like the examples that she showed. She also has a Twitch. It's My Arm Can Fly. I signed up for that, and I do not use Twitch ever. I have an account, but I've like never used it. But I think I'm gonna tune in to some of her like streams in the future just to see what she does. Again, I tried doing needle felting. I tried making like it was like a booklet that came with the kit, and there was a way to make a globe in there, and I tried making a globe, and it was a very ugly globe. It was not very good. So I don't know if I'll go back into 3D, but I still make plushies. I sew plushies, usually using Minky, but needle felting isn't necessarily just for 3D objects. You can also use them for like 2D art. So like My Arm Can Fly also makes badges of your characters, and it's flat. It's not a 3D object. They just take a canvas and needle felt your character in them. So there's a tiny bit of a raised surface there, but it's pretty much flat. You can also use it to add markings, which is what I'm thinking of doing. There are so many characters I want to make, and like Lunar is a character, one of my personas I'm currently working on. Her body is essentially a star field. It's a dark navy body, and it's got blue like dot stars all over it. Not going to be fun to sew, I can tell you that right now. But if I can just needle felt a lot of that in there, that'd be great. Honestly, it'd save me a lot of time. So that's something I'll be looking into just to kind of enhance my plushies a little bit. So again, really great panel, really good information taken away from that. And I do have that cheat sheet. I did not bring it out here for the video, but I do have it. And I will give that other copy to me mom. After that, it was, I believe, 8 p.m. We started at 1, and we were just going, like I said. And now it's time for dinner. My friend only eats like 1 meal a day, if you can believe that. So before we left early that day, I had like bananas and an apple, and I had like grapes and stuff like that in our room. So, but now I'm hungry, and we went to Short Fuse. My friend was really looking forward to I think it's like a local brewery that kind of has a bunch of different kinds of beers and things like that you could try. I hardly ever drink, and when I do not drink beer. But we went. He wants to go see it, and I don't really care as long as I have food because I'm hungry. And it was a pretty decent place. Nowhere near as loud as the first place. Still pretty unattentive waitstaff, and she was constantly spilling things. Not like on us, but like when she brought my friends, I think it's called a flight, where they have like, I don't know, it was like 7-ish, give or take, different samples that you could try. Yeah, she spilled the heck out of that. So when we left, the floor was very sticky. But I got a salad from that place, which I normally avoid salad because I have a cold sensitivity in my teeth. I think that's gone away since I've had a few cavities done, but I'm still very cold shy. So I usually don't have salad. But it just looked really good. It was like a Cajun salad. I had the dressing on the side. Did not like the dressing, so I didn't eat it anyway. I just dipped my finger in and tried. I was like, ooh, no, okay, I'm not eating this. But the Cajun chicken that was in it gave it more than enough flavor, in addition to like some beans and corn, and there was some cheese in there too. So the food was pretty good. Again, waitstaff wasn't that great, but still an overall nice evening. She did try to bring me a few samples of beers she thought I might like, because I like, for me, the sweeter, the better. And that's why when I do drink, I usually stick to wines, because they can be super sweet. But what she brought out, it just wasn't sweet enough. It had a bit of sweetness to it, but it also tasted very beery, which I don't want. So that was kind of that. I felt so bad because she brought these 3 samples for me. And just to show her I wasn't like trying to get free samples, like I like just didn't touch them after I said I didn't like them. Well, the last one that was kind of okay, I did drink a bit more of that. I was getting down to kind of the bottom of my salad, and there was a lot of I tend to savor the proteins when there's protein in my food. So the chicken was kind of going last, and it was much spicier than I thought. And it's Chipotle chicken, but it was much spicier than I thought it was going to be. And the waitress disappeared, and I'm out of water, so I was like, beer, just to cool my mouth a little bit from that chicken. But overall, a pretty decent experience. That was one that was several blocks away. We actually opted to walk that one. It was about a 20-minute walk one way. So thankfully, that was Friday night. It wasn't too cold that night. And I did put on my winter coat, but it wasn't too bad. It was pretty windy though. And that's kind of what got us. Also, what did I have? Oh, if you'll remember back the Eat a Buddy bag that I unboxed from Fursona Pins, I was using that all weekend, and it worked pretty well. I took the snap, and actually Thursday night I put a bunch of like cats in that thing to prepare it. But a great bag. My biggest issue with that, in hindsight, is the tail that was hanging underneath. It fell off too easily, and when we started walking to the brewery, the wind was really picking up. I was like, nope, nope. I'm just taking the tail off now because it's going to blow away. I'm never going to see it again. I also had one of Alyss's, not this one of Alyss's badges with me that was attached to, I think, one of the zippers for that bag. Yeah, I took that off too because it was going to blow away. But overall, pretty good night. Went back, and I think my friend had panels after that, but he's like, nah, I'm going to crash. I'm tired, so... I took a shower and all that, and I tried to do a little bit of sewing. I didn't really do much. I did take my Steam Deck with me, and I didn't touch it, so... But that was Friday night, and now Saturday rolls around. We decided to get an early start, and by early, like, get to the con by 10, so not like 7 a.m., but still kind of early. We were going to go through the Artist Alley, and then I had a couple panels, like, from noon to 2:30, and so I was going to do that, and he was just going to go. I don't think he went back to the room. I think he just kind of chilled, and he had his not Steam Deck. He had his Switch, in his coat somewhere, so he just messed with that. And afterwards, we were going to go to the dealer's den. So went to the Artist Alley, and it's kind of better to go Saturday. When Friday rolls around, it feels like half of the artists aren't even there, which, I mean, they might work, so they might not be able to be there. But I won't say it's empty, but there are definitely large spots where there's just nobody there. And we went through it, and nothing really jumped out at us. There were definitely a lot of really nice art. At least half of them were offering custom badges of your persona. Some of them were really expensive, though. Like, I saw several like $200-$300 just for a badge of your character. And that's way beyond my price range. I did not bring that kind of money. So I just, skipped those. There were a few cute things, though. But, ultimately, I didn't really, in hindsight, just, spoiler alert, I didn't really buy anything from the Artist Alley. I just didn't see anything that I enjoyed. Though I did take a few business cards. And after that, we split off, and I went to my first panel of the day, which was the POC meet, or People of Color, Furry People of Color meet. And I mentioned last year that it was basically discussion the entire hour, and it was fantastic. This time around, it was more of a meet. So it was kind of, the onus was on you to like talk to people, which I'm not very good at. But I did meet a couple people next to me. The one guy next to me talked really softly, and there was like a DJ in the room, and the music was really loud. And so... And I actually asked them to turn it down. I was that old lady that said, turn that music down, you kids. I didn't say it like that, but it's hard to meet people when you can't hear people to talk to them. So they did turn it down a little bit, but it ended up being just a dance party. A bunch of people got in a circle, and they were just people dancing. Again, I told you there was a DJ in there playing music. And I'm going to see if I can show some like clips of that. I feel weird about that because I don't have other people's permission to do that, but I know they saw a lot of people recording, so I think they'll be okay with it. But I'm going to probably show you a couple of clips here and there of people dancing. There are some really talented people out there. There were a few that just, they were kind of the usual dancing group that would go over and over and over again. But there were a lot of other people that, jumped in every once in a while. I did not do that. I can't dance at all. So I just enjoyed watching other people dance. And that was really cool. Just this, I don't know, just a real sense of community. Just being at a furry convention, it is, it's a furry community, but it just felt even more so in this POC panel. Also, it did not surprise me at all that a POC panel would evolve into a dance party. That did not surprise me in the least. They also had food for people. I guess it was free. It was in one of the rooms upstairs. By the time we got there, it was all gone though, and I was very sad. I was like, I can eat before dinner because normally I don't. Normally I just have apples and grapes and stuff. So they ran out of food. But overall, still a pretty decent panel. I just wish there had been more discussion as opposed to just like the meet and greet for last year. I still enjoyed myself because, again, a lot of really talented people dancing, and that was really exciting to watch. So after that, there was a setting and world building panel for me, and I think my friend was still messing around with his Switch somewhere. And there were quite a few writing panels for like creating characters and tension and different things like that. I'm not a writer, at least not a creative writer. I've been a technical writer for college. So I've had to write, papers for undergrad. I had to write a thesis in graduate school, but I've never creatively written anything. So it sounds strange that I would go to something like that, but I'm not necessarily writing a story, but I am making a species. And a big part of making an original species is lore, is world building. And I have so many ideas in my head. My species has been writing itself in my head for at least a year. And I'm sure it will take many more years for that to come to fruition. One of the guys who actually writes stories on the panel for this panel has been working on something for 16 years. I hope it doesn't take me that long, but I want to know if I'm on the right track, if there's any pitfalls I should avoid. And again, it's very different creating a set story as opposed to creating just a world and hoping people adopt the species of your world. And from there, they create their own stories just within your world. So it's a bit different. But when one of the guys writes like RPGs. So think honestly like D&D, or D&D, not D&D. But part of that is creating a world and rules and all of that, and creating classes and races and things like that. But then you've got to think about your players. You have to keep your players in mind, and your players are going to be picking a race and picking a class and all of those things. And together with others, hopefully, they will be weaving a story together. So that's what D&D is, and that's what a lot of role-playing games are. And so that's kind of what I wanted to get out of it. I wanted to make sure I was doing things right. And they suggested looking at other original species, not to copy off of them, but to see how they structure some things. Like I have a Drekibus character named Wisteria, and I found the Drekibus world really interesting. And so that's something I'll definitely be revisiting. Again, not to copy what I think Mambo Dreki did with their species, but to get an idea of what they included. What kind of world building did they deem important? What was too trivial? That's something else they mentioned when it comes to writing. Your audience may not need to know every single little detail. When it comes to making a species, they might need to know some details, but some things you can kind of let things unfold within as long as it's not too crazy and ridiculous and doesn't, go hard against the world you created. It doesn't hurt to let people use their imagination and further develop your world with their characters. So again, very, very interesting. I really did enjoy that. I enjoyed listening to other people ask questions. There was someone that asked about magic systems in your world. And Avatar: The Last Airbender was kind of a standard that was brought up and just compared to that. And Avatar was an influence for my own species. My species does use magic. They use elemental magic, air, earth, water, and fire, but they use 4 other kinds: plant, electric, I'm thinking ice, and then rock. And I'm stopping there. I don't know too many. But so looking at Avatar, that did give me some ideas on how I wanted my species to utilize magic, but I also, I'm not copying Avatar. There are limits to my species magic. How long, so say it's, I don't know, fire. You can't just send fire everywhere and burn down half the planet. It's not going to happen. Your fire doesn't extend that long. So there have to be some safeguards in place, and that's something they mention when it comes to making magic. How would the most benevolent person or creature in your world use this magic? How would the most mischievous? How would the most chaotic evil basically use the magic system you set up? And from there, you can use that to make some parameters so you don't have one creature that can burn down the entire world. So again, very, very interesting panel, and I loved hearing what other people were working on, what other people were trying to develop, what their pitfalls were, and what they were afraid of, what bad habits they were afraid of adopting and falling into. So again, really, really great panel. I enjoyed it a lot. After that, we went to the Dealer's Den, which is significantly bigger than Artist Alley. I don't think it was as big as last year. It just felt a little smaller, which it was still a big room, trust me. But it just didn't feel like there weren't as many dealers there. But still a very good amount, a lot of really cool things that I wanted to buy and couldn't because I'm poor. But I just I had a good budget for MFF. My budget's usually about $1,000. I'm sure some of you are like, oh, it doesn't necessarily have to be that big if you don't want to. But part of that includes admission, which was $70. It includes my half of the hotel, which was, I believe, $263. It includes gas, which was probably about $40 for me. I haven't calculated that yet. I have an idea, though. Food, things like that, and then whatever's left is what you can buy for souvenirs. So some of that stuff you can't avoid. You have to pay for the hotel. Depending on how you get there, you may not have to pay for gas, but you might have to pay for a flight. You may have to pay for a taxi or Uber or whatever it is. So it's whatever. So, but that's my budget, and I wanted hopefully at least half of that to go towards like souvenirs and things like that. So I did find some things, and I guess, again, that's going to be my second video for this month. I will, sorry, Alyss again. I will show you what I bought. I didn't buy as much this time, honestly. So it will probably be a shorter video. It will be a heck of a lot shorter than this video. But there was still a lot of really cool things. I found my arm can fly out there, and I got some spare needles. She recommended 3 specific needle points for needle felting, and she was selling packs of all 3 of them times 3. So you got 3 of each needle for like $15 or whatever. So, I went and grabbed one of those. Glad I did, because I went back Sunday and they were all gone. I got a few other things that I will mention in the other video. But I was walking around and I was talking to a bunch of artists, what they offered, what they could do. There were some that were also taking commissions. It wasn't just Artist Alley. One of which I did commission. I'll mention that in the second video. Need to get back to him, by the way. So, do that. Anyway. But Dealer's Den, God, we probably got in the Dealer's Den like maybe 2:30ish. Well, my panel was done at the setting and world building was done about 2:30, and we immediately went to the Dealer's Den from there. And my panel was in the Hyatt. The Dealer's Den is in the Convention Center. Again, there are sky bridges that connect all of these things, so you don't really have to go outside unless your hotel is really far away. Like, again, in the Aloft, we had to cross through big garages and things like that. But you're protected from the elements. There are further away hotels like Lowe's and like Comfort Inn. Comfort Inn is a couple miles. So If you're that far away, then yeah, you have to go outside. But for the most part, especially if you're going between like panels and dealers and things like, you don't have to go outside. You can just take the Sky Bridge. Sky Bridge is going to be hot as heck, just so you know, because there's a lot of people going through it. Fursuiter or not, it's going to be hot. But it's nice to not be out in the elements. So we went back through there. Probably got back to the dealer's den around 2:45-ish. Did not leave until 6, and that's when they closed. And I was not expecting it to take that long. But I tend to stop a lot. I tend to talk to people a lot. This happens when I go to like craft fairs, like area craft fairs, either, you know, here in this town, or even like when I go down to Belleville. Thanksgiving weekend, I always have a gigantic craft vendor fair that I love going to every year. And I bought way too much bath and beauty products this year, but moving on. I always end up talking to people and, you know, kind of getting an idea of, you know, what they're selling and, you know, how they come up with that, and just a lot of questions I genuinely want to know. And I was also buying a few things. So that took a while, but we left at 6, and we were both starving, and my feet had fallen off 3 hours prior. I have perfectly flat, wide feet. Flat feet, it's hard to stand for long periods, so yeah, my feet were killing me. But it's now time to go to dinner. Yes. So this night we actually drove. I believe last year for MFF, we drove to all of the restaurants. And sounds like a pain in the butt, honestly, when you think about it. But one reason why we do that is we're less likely to run into crowds and there are plenty of restaurants within walkable distance to any of the main hotels, even the Aloft. So they're nice and convenient, but there are 13,000 people went to this thing, and you don't want to fight all of them for the same places to eat. And a lot of those are, you know, minors or young adults. They may not have cars. They might be stuck eating in that area because they can't get very far away. So that's why it's really nice to have a car, and we each took our own cars, because I told you we went separately. So we try to avoid a lot of crowds when we do that. That's, again, what we did all last year. This year, we only did it Saturday night. And we went to... I hope I wrote this down. I did not. Maybe I didn't. I don't know. Yeah, this is wrong. This is the wrong day. Adobe Healy was Thursday. Short Fuse was Friday. The last place was... like Terenzio? It was an Italian place. I will try to find the proper spelling and put it somewhere here. More upscale Italian place. We went there. No congoers at all. We were the congoers that went to this place. Because it was about a 20-minute drive. And my friend went ahead and took his car. So we go there, and yeah, with the other two, even... I think it's Short Fuse. I think we saw a few, like, furry groups there. So, you know, we saw people with ears and tails or badges, you know, all over the place. Nothing at this Italian place. It's too far for a lot of people. And even for those who have cars, they're like, I'm not going out that far. You're out at a con all day. You're about to die at night. So you're probably going to pick something close, or you might just order pizza or something, which, again, convenience, but you'll pay for it in time. You can order that pizza. You might not see that pizza for 2 or 3 hours because everyone else around you also ordered pizza. Well, we didn't have to deal with that. Went to this Italian place, and I was a little with it because it's more expensive than the others. But it wasn't too bad. I still racked up, I think, a $50 bill for my stuff. Didn't have alcohol either. You know, I don't normally drink all that much, and I really don't like drinking at restaurants because it's expensive. So... but we did get an appetizer, which I stupidly did not take a picture of before we dug into it. But it was like a rice ball. I'll see if I can find what it's called and put that in here too somewhere. It was really good. It was really, really good. We were thinking about originally like Italian beef egg rolls, but on closer inspection, I saw they had onions and peppers, and I hate onions and peppers. So we went ahead and did the rice balls instead, and they were really good. They were really, really, really good. My main course, I could have chose something so much cheaper, but I forgot what the heck it's called. I'll put it up here. But it was basically all seafood, some pasta, and like a tomato sauce. And tomato, like red sauces, are usually a little healthier than the white sauces. So I went for that. And oh my God, it was amazing. It really was. It tasted really good. It had a really big portion, a good amount of seafood too. I've been to places where I'll order something that has like meat in it or whatever, and then like sauce. And what you get is like 90% sauce and then like a little bit of meat in there. And it's infuriating because usually, because it's seafood, it costs more. So I just paid $20 for soup and 2 shrimp. That was not at all the case at this place. It heavy amounts of seafood in there, and I loved it. The seafood tasted really good. My, I think, biggest issue was it came with I think clams, not oysters, because I hate oysters. But it came with clams, and you had to like finagle the meat out of there. But even that wasn't that bad. It wasn't that hard. Really delicious. I absolutely loved it. And afterwards, my friend said, "Yeah, I kind of want dessert." And I was like, "I don't need dessert." But I got dessert anyway. He got tiramisu, which I almost did. But instead, I got a salted caramel, like apple crisp, which was pretty good. It was a little crusty on the edges, but the inside was amazing. Really, really good dessert that I did not eat at all. He also had been thinking about like cheesecake and stuff, and I was like, yeah, I can't eat that. So, and actually, my salted caramel pastry came with like 2 scoops of ice cream, which promptly got rid of. And he's like, "You're not gonna eat your ice cream?" I was like, "I'm lactose intolerant, dude. I can't eat the ice cream without seriously horrible consequences a few hours down the line." And he's like, "Oh, just give it to me and I'll tell you." Okay, good. And he's like, "Oh yeah, it's like a cinnamonish type. He's got cinnamon in it. There's like a bit of caramel." I was like, "Stop telling me how good it is because I can't eat it." You terrible, terrible person. But high bill, but really good food. Definitely would recommend it. The restaurant whose name I can't remember, I will put it up here somewhere, hopefully. But really, really good dinner. Definitely my favorite dinner. Not that the others were bad dinners. Again, my friend really didn't like what he got at Adobe Gila, but I didn't have an issue with it. I just had an issue with the size. But yeah, I think Tarasso's is the name of the Italian place, and I probably butchered that. But really good place, would definitely recommend. You will spend a decent penny though. I think what he and I both ordered, we both ordered seafood dishes, and they were like $28 and $29 respectively. Yes, you can find something cheaper. Actually, what we ordered was, I think mine was a $29 one, and that might have been the most expensive thing on the menu, honestly. So if you're okay with like spending in the teens, you can definitely find something in the teens. I just saw, oh, seafood, and so I got that. But that was pretty much the end of Saturday night. My friend did, well, for me, I'm sorry. My friend had a couple panels. Both were not safe for work, and I tend to avoid those. I don't like not safe for work content. I don't care if it's furry related or not. It's not my thing. So, but it will depend. There are some not safe for work panels that I've been to. One was very much sex related, and it was an anime con, and my friends all wanted to go, and I was like, fine, I'll go with you guys. But when it comes to like the 18 plus panel, it doesn't necessarily mean it's sex heavy. It might just mean it has more adult, I was gonna say more adult content. That sounds like sex and porn, but it could be subject matter. It just could be a very heavy conversation. A couple of pony cons I've gone to in the past, they had 18 plus panels talking about like, I think it was like depression or like, mental illness. And it wasn't that they were talking about sex or anything, because they weren't. But it's just a very heavy subject. It's a very serious subject. These were not panels goofing around, making fun of these illnesses or anything like that. They were very, very serious panels. So just, usually panels have descriptions when you see them. So just read that to see what it's all about. Now, if it's like an inflatable panel or, something like, or a kink panel, then... But not all of them are about that. So just read and see what see what you think. But I can't remember which ones he was going to go to. One of which he missed because we were at dinner, but he was able to go to the other one. I was done for the night. So, I just showered and I started packing because it was Saturday night and we had to check out first thing the next day. Not first thing as like 8 a.m., but it was going to be the first thing we did before anything else. So, I was packing and getting all that done. And we just had a good chill night. He eventually came back around. He actually did not go to, well, he went, but he could not be in the panel. Because he was right at the door, and they're like, yeah, no, capacity full. So he had to come back really early, and he was very sad. And that happens. With MFF, doesn't usually happen very much. And GFM, oh God, no, it never happens. GFM is like 300 people over the weekend. I will say it, like anime conventions like ASEN, I think I mentioned this before in like other convention videos. ASEN is an anime convention, but it's 25,000 people over a weekend. It's more than double what MFF is. And it's earned the name LineCon because virtually any panel you go to, there will be a line before it. And there is a chance, especially if it's an 18 plus panel, you're not making it in. Because they do actually check and make sure they're following capacity requirements there. Because, fire hazards and things like that. So unfortunately for my friend, he wasn't let in, so he came in early. But we just chilled the rest of the night. I think he was like on a Switch most of the time. And again, I was, packing. And also I was spending time calculating what I had spent. Everything, again, including the hotel. I had to, note to self, send him his half of the hotel bill because I totally forgot to do that. And so that $500 and whatever is coming out of my account right now. That's not good. But, calculating everything I've spent. And I mean everything, including dinner, including every souvenir I had bought up until that point. I think my total was like $710 or something like that. So it's like, yeah, I still have money left. Because the Sunday was a charity auction. And I really wanted to have some money for that. It didn't really matter, but I'll get to that in a second. So I did that. And I will have to put that in my budget spreadsheet later on. But sleep and then wake up, and now it's Sunday. First thing we do, like I said, is check out. Check out, I believe, was at 11, and the charity auction starts at 11. So we have to check out before we go to that. And checkout was no big deal. Took very little time. Went through all my crap in my car. He did the same. Because he had to move his car to go to the restaurant the night before. He lost his parking spot, and so he had to go up a level in the parking garage. But we got all that situated and went to the charity auction. These panels have been great. I'm losing fur, oh God. Panels have been great this year, but virtually nothing tops the charity auction. I love the charity auction so much, even if things go ridiculously high and I cannot buy anything. It's always fun to watch. It's always fun to go to. If you go to a furry convention, there will be a charity auction. If you go to a My Little Pony convention, I believe there's also a charity auction. Both of those groups, very big on charity. So they will have a sponsored charity. I am so sorry. I forgot to look up the sponsored charity. I have a button with their name on it. I will try to put that up here somewhere and maybe link it in the description or something, just so you know where the money went to. But yeah, always a blast. And it was hosted by, I believe, Pepper Coyote, who I know his name, and I know what he looks like because he was one of the hosts. But I know he's a music guy. I haven't really heard a lot of his music, so feel free to yell at me in the comments if you want to do that. But Pepper Coyote was there, Alkali was there, and my friend, I think there was a panel after that, and Alkali was like, my friend's like, yeah, I'm going to that panel. We are simple people. We see the name Alkali, we go. Alkali, if you've never met him before, I'm sure you can find clips of like con horror stories, which I'll get to that too in a second, and a few other things that he has done with some of his friends. Alkali is hilarious. He's very charismatic. He's also very loud. He's a very just naturally booming voice, and it's great. But he is so funny. It's crazy. But we had gone to the auction, and there were a lot of really cool things. My brain stopped, and I didn't get a lot of pictures of things. If it's like a drawing, I'm not going to take a picture of it. If it's something physical, though, it doesn't matter as much. But I forgot to take pictures. But there were quite a few things that went for 3 digits. At least $100. There was, I forgot what they're called, but there was another music group. I don't think it was Pepper Coyote, but there was another group or two that had a bunch of, they were selling CDs in, I don't remember if it was Artist Alley. I think it was a dealer's den. But they donated a bunch of music as one lot item for the charity auction. And so it was all of these CDs, and they also included like a thumb drive of just like hundreds of hours of music. It's just an absolutely insane amount of music. And it went over $200, I think. The winning bid was over $200. And the winner of the auction were the people who made the music. They bid on their own item and won it for $200. I found that just insane. But that's the kind of people furries are. It doesn't matter that he's buying his own music. He just gave $200+ to the charity. And that's the point of the charity auction. That's why we do it. They had badges, just standard badge. So what I paid $70 for my badge this year. That's a standard badge. There are sponsored badges that are significantly more expensive and come with more stuff. But they auctioned off a standard badge for next year's Midwest FurFest. And it went for over $100. I think almost $200. And that sounds insane because, again, I paid $70 for mine. So when you go to a charity auction, if you are more logical with your money, like I usually am, you kind of have to shut that off. I mean, if you're bidding on it, if you're just watching people, it doesn't matter because it's not your money. But if you are bidding on things, you kind of have to shut your brain off. Because there are some times where you're like, why am I paying 3 times the amount for a t-shirt that's worth $30 sold for like over $100? In a logical financial brain, that makes no sense. Why would you pay more than 3 times the amount for what it's worth? That doesn't make any sense. But people do it because they want a cool shirt, but they also want to support the charity. And it's so cool. This is why I love this fandom. This fandom also has its issues, but generosity is not one of those issues. The furry fandom is just so insanely generous. It's crazy. And they raised $10,000 for that charity at the charity auction alone. Because they told us before we dispersed, when the auction ended. Because after, every single amount, the person who was, taking payment and all that could calculate, how much they had earned. And it was over $10,000. Several things went for $600. Just one item. Well, okay, 3 different items went for like $600 a piece. That's what I meant to say. And one was a hotel room for the Hyatt next year for MFF 2023. That went for $600. And hotels aren't cheap. They aren't. I just told you our stay at the Alyss was $500 and something just for the room, and of course split between 2 people. So, but that's probably about how much you're going to pay for the hotel. And if you can get 4 people to room with you, then that's significant. And you get them to pay you back, then that's great. That's awesome. But that could be a steal, honestly. If you pay $600 for that room, so you get 4 people, and they each pay you, let's say, $150. You split it equally amongst 4. You just got a 2-night stay in basically the Con Hotel for $150 for the weekend. That's a deal. And speaking of other deals, someone actually donated, because all the things they're auctioning off are usually donations by artists. Not necessarily all artists, but usually artists who are in the dealer's den or the artist alley or whatever. They will donate some of their wares for the charity auction. Someone made a suit. Someone made a partial. It was, I think it was some kind of ungulate. So a hooved animal. I don't know why I'm doing this. I'm not a hooved animal. So this is a hooved animal. I think maybe like a llama alpaca. I'm still not sure the difference between the 2. But a llama or an alpaca or something like that. So it had a head. It had, hooves instead of paws. I believe it also had a tail and some arm sleeves. So actually a partial, not a mini partial. It went for $550, which if you know anything about fursuit costs, you're not getting a partial for $550 anywhere. If you see one for $550, it is a scam or it's probably very poorly made. And I'm not joking. There are definitely, I'm not saying you need to buy from the biggest makers like Mischief Makers or More for Less or any of or Lemon Brat, any of those. Those are going to be in the thousands. But you can easily find smaller makers. Blue Wolf Studios was a smaller maker. for less than that. But I don't care where you go, you're not getting a partial for $550. The biggest issue with the partial is that it was really small. You could just tell. They weren't letting, every time an item came up, they would, take it around, and if they had runners that would show it to you more in detail. There was something that was like a little tiny cat or something that was like this big. And so they had runners taking around just showing people this cat. But they had people taking the parts of it, like the head of the suit around so you could see it. You couldn't try it on. They don't have time because as the runner is showing you the head, they're going through the auction. I can't snap with this. Yeah. Pretend I'm snapping. They're going through the auction for the suit. And the size was the only issue because I was like, I kind of want this. I never thought of having an ungulate as a Sona, but it's a cute suit. But most people can tell it's small. It's for a very small person or maybe like a child. Maybe not a child, but like a smaller teenager. You've got to be small on this. So that's why a lot of people didn't bid, most likely, because they know they can't fit it. But if you could fit into that suit, that's an insane deal for a partial. So you find all kinds of things at charity auctions. And like I said, a lot of things went in the triple digits. I had about $280 left to spend. Even then, the things I wanted went for way higher than that. And the things I didn't really want. So I didn't bid on them. But even if you don't bid or things are too high, it's still a lot of fun. It's really cool seeing the different items for sale. It's absolutely hilarious listening to Alkali and Pepper Coyote. There was a woman there as well, something the Comedy Bunny, I think, maybe Sarah or something like that. I can't remember. But there are multiple hosts keeping things going, keeping things light, keeping things moving. I don't know how many times 69 was bid because furries are gonna furry. It was funny like the first 5 times, but like I was done with the 69 joke after that. But still a lot of fun. I don't know if I have the biggest item. I'm not sure. I had to help hold it up, so I asked my friend to take some pictures. But the last 2 items were one of the like they had a Heroes theme, and so they had a variety of different mascots for this theme. And one of them was a gator, like a superhero gator. And it was a standee that was just at the convention. They had standees of different characters all over the place, along with like banners. And I'll show you some of those banners as well because I took pictures of those, just with the hero characters on it, and just heroes wear their masks at all times or whatever, things like that. But they were selling that gator standee, which was huge. It was absolutely huge. I think it went for at least over 300. So it was pretty, yeah. And then, but the final thing was the banner from MFF 2021 last year. So it was Intergalactic was the thing. And it came with so much stuff. It was a humongous banner, one that they would like hang over. So there are 2 sets of escalators down and up like this in the main lobby of the Hyatt. And here's the second story here, first floor here. Like where the second story is, they would hang giant banners that had, MFF, and then it would be Intergalactic for last year, it'd be Heroes for this year. But a lot of those banners I told you about, they even had a banner this year explaining what furries were and what was going on, just in case a non-furry was, in the Hyatt hotel. But all of that went for $600. So I don't know what the heck the winner is going to do with all of that. I sure as hell know it wouldn't fit in my house. I don't know where they're going to hang all that. But yeah, it was just an amazing sight to see them auction that off. I'm sure all the hero stuff will be auctioned off next year. I've got to stop hitting Alyss because I'm going to give her a concussion. But love the charity auction. I love it so much. And after that, we went to the dealer's den to just pick up a couple things. There were a few things I was interested in, one of which the slots sold out. I was going to get a commission of my new character Lunar from My Arm Can Fly. So just a little needle felted doll, and her slots sold out, but I'll look into February. I think that's when she'll open next. There was a bag I wanted from RH Potter. I believe I showed you her stuff last year. There were a couple posters, and there was a tote bag that had like a snap on it. You can revisit that video. But that tote bag I carry with me in my purse, and I use it whenever I go grocery shopping. So it's gotten a lot of use. I wanted to get a drawstring bag from her with a specific design, a newer design, and unfortunately she sold out. So maybe I can get it later, maybe I can get it next year. The only other thing was a wooden badge, a 3D wooden badge that would be commissioned. And I did get that. I won't be able to show it to you, but I might show you some examples of what that artist does, just so you have an idea in the next video when I talk about what I bought. I did all that, and that was pretty much it. And that was between, the auction ended at 1, and our last panel was at 2. So we just kind of went to the dealer's den to check all that out and get my last minute stuff. And then we went to the last panel, which was the Con Horror Stories. It had Alkali in it and a few of his other friends. And they just talked about different awful things that have happened at different cons. Most of them were furry related. But like one of them went to an anime con, and they talked about the importance of contracts. If you have never done contract negotiations, it's important. I've never done it. And when it comes to land acquisition, which is what I'm involved in, we have a negotiator, but I don't do that. I do appraisals. So I've never really done it, but they stress how important it was to have a decent contract with the hotel and the convention center that you're working with. There's one year I don't know if it was a furry con or I think it was an anime con, actually. But they had, it was huge, literally thousands of people. It was like ASEN kind, not ASEN, but it was that big. It had tens of thousands of people over a weekend, and it's at 75 freaking voice actors and whatnot, just as guests of honor. And I think it was Saturday night or something where they said, oh yeah, we're doing renovations, so yeah, everybody here on these floors, which was like the entire convention, get out. Going somewhere else. And that's a nightmare I do not want to fathom. There were so many good stories, and I'm pretty sure you can find Con Horror Story, just YouTube Con Horror Stories, just Alkali. I bet you'll find some that people have recorded from other conventions, but you'll get an idea of what it is. It was absolutely hilarious just listening to all of their different stories and all the things they've gone through, and all these guys have been through so many conventions. All of them were on the staff for MFF. Many of them have been on the staff for others. Some of them were chairs for other conventions. So they've been, elbow deep in the furry fandom for a very long time. And it was just great hearing their experiences. And it was really funny, like I said, especially Alkali. He is a blast every time I hear him. And after that, that was it. That was the con. My friend and I parted ways. I did mention to him if he wanted to check out like Winnie City, which is not a furry con, it's a pony con. Winnie City and Cider Fest are two pony cons that are still going on, and I believe Milwaukee. Asked him if he was interested in that, let me know. Also, if he was interested in going to Gateway Fur Meet, to let me know. I go to that one every year, and I've done at least one video on my experiences there. And yeah, that was pretty much it. We said our goodbyes, and I headed home. And I was supposed to go to my mom's house when I got here, but I died instead. I just came home and unpacked all my stuff. Cause once I get to a destination like this, either where I'm going or back home, everything needs to be back in its proper place, or I'm going to lose my marbles. So I just spent the night unpacking and eating Chipotle. And I think I watched a movie. I think it was like Upgrade or something. It was one of the movies I bought for Black Friday. I'm trying to go through all those to make sure all the discs work. But that's it. That was my con experience this year. Yet another successful con. Not everything went the way we wanted to, like registration and vaccines. But still overall a really good time. There were no like horrible panels, because we've been to some panels that were not great. I don't think there were as many like last year. We've definitely been some anime conventions I've been to that were just not great or didn't happen because the panelists did not show up. But no, there were a lot of really good panels. I gleaned a lot of information from different hosts. Found some really cool stuff that I will cover in the next video. And just had a good time. Had a good escape for a while. Work is always ramping up for us. It's not going to stop anytime soon. So I just appreciate the fact that I am able to go to events like this, and I will regale my coworkers tomorrow with stories at the con. I can't wait to tell them about the charity auction and how, well, and there's the con itself, according to someone on Reddit, so I don't know if it's true or not, but I think they got it from MFF's Twitter. Again, 13,000 plus attendees, and I believe they raised over $100,000 for the charity. I can't remember, but this is furries. This is what we do. We are a cuddly people. We are a generous people. We are supportive people for the most part. And we are just a goofy, weird people. And I absolutely love it. This is why I love going to events like this. Going there, meeting my people, and just seeing how different people celebrate this fandom in different ways. I love it so much. But yeah, that was MFF 2022, which again happened like 2 days ago. So fairly fresh. Even then, I enjoyed my cheat sheet. Good cheat sheet. I screwed up part of the cheat sheet, but that's okay. If you guys like what I do, like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. And the second half, as I said, will just be the swag portion of my con review. So I'm just going to go over all the things I bought, and it will probably be a shorter video because I didn't buy a ton. I think I spent more money on less things. I think that's how that went. And again, one thing is a commission, so I'll try and show you examples of what the finished product will look like, only it will have Alyss in it and not what you see. And I might show like what my arm can fly does, if I can find some pictures of her needle felting. I'll kind of give you an idea of what I plan to have done with Lunar. I just wasn't able to order it because the slots were full. But that's about it. This is my last day off. We get 3 personal days a year at work, and if you do not use them at the end of the year, they're gone. So I spent those 3 personal days for MFF Friday, Monday, and Tuesday to recover and also shoot this video. Hopefully it will get out by Friday, whatever the end of this week is, like 8th, 9th, something like that. I don't know. What's today? I can't look at it. Nah, anyway. But hopefully this week, though I did say in the community portion of my channel that it may be delayed. If I can't get this out today, I don't know what other time this week I would have to work on it. So if I don't get it out this week, then it may be out, I think like the 16th or something like that, whatever that Friday is. And if that is the case, then the swag portion will be 2 weeks from that. So it will be the 30th. But if all goes well and I'm able to edit and upload this tonight, this should come out, I think, around the 9th. And the swag portion should come out 2 weeks from that. I'm not doing math right now. So that will round out the year. These are my last 2 videos of the year. So I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope you enjoy the next one. And until that next one, I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, week, I guess month, whatever. So until the next video, you guys have a great night.